All right, so tonight we're going to cover another emotional intelligence and anxiety and depression, and definitely talk a little bit more about criticism. I have gotten a lot of good feedback as it relates to criticism, and we're going to cover a little bit more on that. There's a lot I need to click on the screen, so my eyes will wander all over the screen. We have Randy with us today again, and I am Randa Griffith, and I am Carmen Seljuk. When it comes to emotional intelligence requires us to recognize and become aware of our emotions. That's easier said than done. And the default everybody defaults to is that emotions are triggered by an outside event and we have no control over, which is not accurate. Oftentimes, emotions are triggered by an outside event. 99% of the time, we do have control over that outside event. We have control over how we respond to that outside event 99% of the time. And in order to elevate our emotional intelligence, it is very wise for us to learn to recognize that we have an emotion, and it's not the end of the world that we have an emotion, right? We're not going to like all of the emotions we have, and I don't think it's possible to go through life with having just emotions we like. I don't know if that happens. Even kitty cats don't have that. I look at my kitty cats and oftentimes they go through emotions they don't like. So, but we are humans. As humans, we have been bestowed upon with a high degree of control, with what we call free will, attention allocation, self-awareness, discipline, wisdom, and all that. So self-awareness as related to emotional intelligence tells us that it's advised that we are to be aware of both mood and thoughts about the mood. So here we have an emotions and an unpleasant mood we have, and then we have thoughts about the mood. So it's good to be aware of both of these things, because we're in unpleasant mood. I don't want to say bad mood. So we're experiencing an unpleasant mood, and then we have a tape that goes in the background with, why we have the bad mood and who did what and who said what, and it should have been this way, and it wasn't right, and it was wrong, and that's how it should have been, and that's not the way to do it, and that's the way to do it, and that's not east, that's west, it's not north, it's south, and that's when we begin to have a lot of unease. So emotional awareness, there is a sequence to the emotional awareness, and emotional intelligence pioneers like John Mayer, Salovey, Daniel Goleman, and many others are telling us that the sequence to the emotional awareness is 1, sensing the emotion, 2, acknowledging that you have a feeling, 3, identifying the facts. There's facts that surround you, so identify the facts. 4, accept that you have the feeling, not whether you like it or you don't like it, accept that you are experiencing a feeling. Number 5, reflect on why the emotion is showing up at that moment. So we're at step 5 and we still are not at the point to whether we like or don't like why we have an emotion. That's not it, because what we like and don't like gets us in a lot of trouble throughout life. So step 5, we reflect on why the emotion is showing up in that moment, and we notice other feelings, there is emotions, sensations, and other feelings that are present or that came before it, and we're still not evaluating whether we like it or don't like it, or whether somebody did something or not. No, at step 5, we're just reflecting. And at the same, while we are reflecting, we're also asking, what's the purpose of that emotion? Because remember, the physical body is it's highly intelligent. The human body is extremely intelligent, and the way your physical body, my physical body, your physical body communicates is through sensations, emotions, right? So we want to pay attention to that, to listen to what our body is saying, and not in a way that I'm hungry, I need to have chocolate, or I'm bored, I need to have alcohol, or other distractions, or I have an itch, I have to have someone scratch my itch. No, come on, not like that. That's what animals do, right? So when it comes to elevating our emotional intelligence, we're learning to listen to our physical body with a bit more curiosity, and try to understand what body is communicating to us. And it's not as complex as you think it is, because we're still not at the point to whether we like it or don't like it, whether it should be or it shouldn't be, right? So the next step number 6, is to act upon the feeling, which means bring your thoughts and feelings into taking appropriate action. So here it is, taking the appropriate action. It's not jumping to the conclusion you like it or you don't like it, or somebody triggered that for you or didn't trigger for you, or is the kitty cat fault that she jumped on a countertop, right? So then you get angry because kitty cat jumps on the countertop. Well, that's what kitty cats do, right? So at step number 6, you bring your thoughts and feelings together, because you've already reflected on it. And at this point, you kind of sort of a little bit, not completely in words, but instinctually kind of know what the purpose of that is. And you already have made a decision by now that you are going to be in control of, in charge of it, and going to behave in a civilized manner. Yeah, you're not going to hiss like a kitty cat would hiss, or there's no need to hiss at anything. Nobody's done anything to you, right? Even if somebody said something. And I'm not talking when somebody is physically hurting you. I'm not talking about that. That's a completely different chapter. And then at number 7, you are going to reflect on the usefulness of the response, not the reaction, but the response you've given. And then what's the lesson to take away from the response you're being and how you've responded. So there is a few steps to be followed. And if you follow these steps in between breaths, take a little bit of pause and breathe a little deeper and exhale a little longer, it will give you time to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, and it will give you time to kind of minimize, not eliminate. I'm not looking to eliminate, but kind of deflate the severity of the emotion, and take a breath and respond as opposed to react. Because the animal world reacts. Yeah, a kitty cat doesn't like something, she's gonna hiss. That's a reaction. Yeah, a kitty cat doesn't ponder, oh, should I hiss, should I not hiss? Let me see what step on the emotional intelligence scale am I going through. Kitty cat's not gonna do that. But as humans, it's advised that we do that, and it is to your benefit, because you are the person who cares about how you feel. Yeah. And you are the one that can do something about how you feel. Other people might contribute to it. The environment and the events might contribute to it, but you are the one that is going to do something about how you feel, consciously or unconsciously. So walking through this emotional intelligence, elevating your emotional intelligence, you will learn how to do that more consciously, right? And also keep in mind that emotional intelligence, the concept is not that old of a concept, but being in charge of your emotion, it's a very old habit, and people have been doing that for eons and eons and eons. And before civilization, people that lived in the woods, tribal time, indigenous people, they are very much in tune with their emotions, with their physical body, with what they're sensing, what the message is, and all that. And if they are very, what's the word? Not well civilized, not in a civilized, because there's no civilization in tribal time, but they respect what they feel, and they respect the action that they should take over what they feel, right? And I'm not talking about tribe and other people going to war, because when I'm not going to that polarity. If you wish to go to that polarity, this podcast might not be for you. We're looking for balance, achieving balance, and we're looking to understand how to be in charge of what we feel, yeah, and not be at the mercy of what we feel, and not have the emotions own us, but have us own the emotions, yeah, not vice versa. So when we get this, when we understand this more clearly, we spend a little bit of time on this, and we ponder a little bit on it. Yeah? And once we've pondered a little bit, you begin to discover and learn about it more and more and more. And the more you're going to look at your reactionary process, you will find that criticism is probably the first step you're going to take. And I would encourage everybody to take a step back from instinctual criticism and resort to criticism when criticism is needed as a feedback, as constructive, when laws have been broken and things like that. And because when we talk about the drama triangles, and I talked about this before, the victim, rescuer, prosecutor, that is a thought feeling pattern that sits at the basis of all the troubles we experience in life. All the thoughts and the feelings and emotions and the behavior, unhealthy behavior, stems from that pattern, victim, rescuer, prosecutor. And because of that, if the first step you take is to go criticize something when you have an emotion, you are being pulled right back into that lower level that a lot of people are there. So we're trying, as humanity, we're trying to get out of that lower level of reactionary level, right? I think we've had enough wars. I mean, there's still wars going on the planet, but I think we've had enough wars. And I think as humans are capable to conduct ourselves with cooperation and collaboration and without the need to go to war. So what we can do to help with that is to elevate our emotional intelligence. Other people call that elevating your conscious awareness, expanding your consciousness. And other people go and pray for that. So every single thought of peace and every single thought of kindness, collaboration, cooperation helps with ending the war on a planet. And I'm not saying that you have a thought right now and the war is going to end tomorrow. That's not how it works. It's not how it works. And but if your instinct is to go criticize something, if you begin to pay attention and just say, okay, let's not criticize right away. Let's reflect upon it a little more. Maybe I can criticize better after I've reflected upon it and after I've chosen the appropriate response, right? Because if one thing you do in life is to don't criticize no more, you will elevate your emotional intelligence rather quickly. It's a mechanism. It's a behavior mechanism. It's how the subconscious works. It's how the collective unconscious works. And if all you do is take a step back from criticism, you will elevate emotional intelligence, and you will be happier and healthier, and everybody will be happier with you, and all that. And that's a good thing. And all of you feeling good is going to contribute to the collective's feeling good. And the more people contribute to the unconscious collective or being happy and kind and feeling good, then there will be no need for war. And I'm hoping that humanity will arrive to that, because in the past 10, 20 years, that's a lot of consciousness shifting, and shifting very rapidly. The acceleration it's a bit too much, and we are overwhelmed. We are overwhelmed to one aspect, but on the other aspect, I'm happy to see how things are shifting quickly and how people are they're grabbing on to this lower level of emotional intelligence. Let's just call it that for today. So we're gonna have Randy give us his wisdom for right now, and then I'll be back. Randy?
Yeah, I think there should definitely be less criticism, and we can start that with me. People can stop criticizing me, and we'll go from there. So I totally agree with that. The end. Yeah, the other thing I was going to say was that just jumping back to what you were saying earlier, Carmen, that we've got to own our feelings. Okay. But how can I own my feelings if somebody just pisses me off? And, or if they hurt my feelings, or if they do something that's unpleasant? How can I own that when it's their fault because they did it? I can't make them do anything, but it hurts my feelings. If I remember I had a friend who was living with her boyfriend for a while, and it just drove her crazy because he did very little except smoke dope and play video games in the day. And he was emotionally about the age of 11 and a half. He was actually about 30, but it just used to drive her crazy. And if if I said, well, own your feelings about that, she would have slapped me in the face probably. So what does it mean when that does that? And there's a good exercise that can show the fact that we do own our feelings. And here's that exercise. And it's very common sense, but it's something we don't think about much. Ever wonder why, for instance, some people see a snake in their yard and they're very curious about it. They want to know what kind it is. Is it a chicken snake, garden snake, or is it a water moccasin? Is one response. Second response is, I'm going to scare it away or kill it. Third is scream, terrified, total, fight or flight, total flight. Screaming for their spouse to come out there and kill it, so on and so forth. Why is that? Why does person A have curiosity, person B, just kind of no feelings, and person C is terrified? Why is that? It's the same thing, right? It's a snake in the yard, but three different responses. There are a lot more than that. Why is that? If seeing a snake is terrifying, which it is for a lot of people, why isn't everybody terrified? Why aren't we all screaming for our spouses to come out there and kill it? Well, one of the reasons is that like you've talked about, Carmen, it's our subconscious mind. We have a filter. Something doesn't just happen and then we respond. That's the way it seems because our brains are so fast. Something happens, I see a snake, and I wet my pants, or I scream, or I do something, or I get curious. So but in reality, what happens is something happens. It is interpreted by a filter in our head, sometimes subconsciously, frequently subconsciously, and that filter tells us how we're going to react. So when you say, Carmen, own our feelings, that's what a mature, emotionally intelligent person is understanding is that something is telling me in my head to think or feel a certain way. For instance, I'm terrified of snakes. They're going to jump up. Snakes are horrible. My father got bit by one, and for instance, and almost lost his leg or whatever, and I'm scared to death. Well, if that thought is in there even subconsciously, seeing a snake, even if it's a garden snake that are good, are good for the environment, really, is terrifying. But if a second person has no thoughts of snakes, isn't scared of them, is curious about them, thinks they're beautiful, actually, very interesting creatures, that person is going to have a different emotional response. It's their response depending on their head, their brain. So when you say, Carmen, that we got to own our feelings to have emotional intelligence. To me, that means owning means that I am aware of what is making me respond in a certain way to a certain event. I am aware of my filters. That's where hypnosis helps a lot because it makes us more conscious of our subconscious, so that we are aware of why that is. Something happening makes one person feel a certain way and another way. So a lot of times it's subconscious reactions we're having. So hypnotism can, if we're stuck in a lower emotional intelligence, like you're talking about, Carmen, if we're stuck and we're constantly upset about something or somebody, that's where hypnotism can help us understand that there's some filter in our head that is making us, that is interfering and making us react in a certain way. And again, just to repeat, how can I prove that? Because people react differently to different things all the time. I'll give one more example, real life example. Years ago, I was I'm the least, one of the reasons I'm single is I'm the least handy person in America, period, end of story. I can't do, there's nothing I can fix. I can oil my bicycle chain, but even then, sometimes I mess it up. So I'm very, very non-handy. So, you know, go out on a date and people say, are you very handy? And I say, not really. Well, end of date. So one time I was trying to change a light bulb, a fluorescent light bulb in a fixture in my kitchen. Turned it one little turn, and this is very typical, the entire light fixture fell out of the ceiling. But not just the thing that held the light, the entire fixture just fell out. Wires just dangling. Well, in my mind, my initial reaction is this is a disaster. This is going to cost this is going to cost $5,000. I might have a new ceiling, et cetera. Went off on this tangent. Called a friend of mine whose father's an electrician. No big deal. We'll go out and fix it. Be up there in 10 minutes. Came up there, put it back up to the ceiling, changed the bulb, took about 10, 15 minutes. So their filter was, oh, this is no big deal. This happens constantly. This is what I do for a living. My reaction is, well, now I'm $5,000 new ceiling. So that's where an example of how those filters make us feel. Who's going to feel better, the electrician guy or me? It's going to be the electrician guy because he's like, this is routine. I can handle this. No big deal. In the meantime, you know, I'm over in the, you know, I'm having a nervous breakdown because I'm anticipating and anxiety is taking me over. So that's an example of what you're talking about, I think. Would you agree?
Yes, I will agree, and I like the example you brought on, Randy, and you are correct. I mean, it's nothing to overreact over a little light bulb, and thank you for having the courage to talk about it, because most men would not talk about it, and most men would not agree that they're not handy, because there's a generalization that all men should be handy, should be able to fix things, which that's not it. But the snake example, I really enjoyed the snake example so much so, because you're right, curiosity. You look at a snake and it's not like you're in a jungle and you have a whole venomous, poisonous snake that's going to come in and bite you in the ass, right? But if you're curious and you look at the snake and you see what kind it is, and nowadays you're probably just going to pick up your phone and go take a photo of it. Well, what do you think happened this time? It's like, oh, there's a snake. Oh, let me turn it up, take a photo of it. All what that's doing to you, it's activating your parasympathetic. You're diverting your attention from anxiousness and criticism. Oh, this is bad. There's a snake. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? Like you, it's like the ceiling is gonna fall over. A light bulb went off, right? You're diverting your attention from here to here, and all you need is, you don't need more than a few seconds. You do not need more than a few seconds. And of course, the emotion is still going to be there. It's not realistic to expect yourself or to expect other people to not have emotions. But having emotions and being emotional are two different things. Now, when somebody is telling you that you're emotional, it means that you don't own your emotions. Right? You're overreacting. It's like, oh my God. And are you over? Sometimes you're going to go, oh my God, what am I going to do? Of course you're going to do that. It's normal. If you're not having emotions, then you're not quite human. I don't know what kind of human you would be if you're not having emotions. You're just going to be a different kind of human. right? And we usually call that sociopath and people that commit crimes and all that, right? So I doubt that a sociopath would listen to this podcast. No way, no way. So you that are listening to this, at least you know that you can own your emotions. And somebody just sent me a question and said that if we can control the emotions, and if the emotions are influenced by thoughts, do we own our thoughts? And I'm like, that's a really good question. And that's something I would like everybody to ponder on. Most of the thoughts we control and we have conscious control over, but a lot of the thoughts we don't, because they run in the background. It's like the operating system, whether it's Windows or Apple or Mac or Android or Linux or whatever, is the operating system that nobody talks about up until you need to get to it because something is not working right. So there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of thought processes that happen at a subconscious level, and that goes through sorting, evaluation, generalization, deleting, distorting, generalizing. I like, I don't like, should be, shouldn't be. But the very basic level of all of these thought processes have beliefs and values. And the reason I'm asking you to don't criticize it much is because directly by taking a step back and not criticizing as much, you're subconsciously, you are going to positively affect your beliefs. Because through the experience, instead of going, oh my God, and then you have an experience and then it says, oh, that wasn't such bad. Oh, come on, what was it thinking? Through that experience, simple little things, have a snake, and it's like, oh, let me take a picture of it. By having that experience, you're beginning to polish your belief. Because emotional intelligence requires you that you elevate, you polish, you take a look at your beliefs. Why do you believe what you believe? Why do you value what you value? Right? So emotional intelligence will take you through these processes, and it's a beautiful process. It's a beautiful process. If all you do in your life is just spend time on the physical aspects of life, big house, big car, big body, big belly, big everything. No, only woman is supposed to be small. Sorry, take a come on. So if all you do is just look at the physical aspect and don't look at what creates that physicality, what created that which is created, you begin to enter great levels of beauty and love and compassion and kindness and expansion and all that. And kitty cat going on a countertop is not going to be a big deal because she's going to go on a countertop whether you like it or not. It's just how it goes. So yeah, owning your emotions is important. And the moment you blame someone or something for what you feel, that's the moment you don't own it. And then when you own your emotions, it becomes easier for you. And you might say, well, I don't like what I'm feeling. I'm not going to own that feeling because I don't like that feeling. That's not about it. Again, we're not doing like or not like, because if you keep on going, I don't like this, I'm not going to do this because I don't like it. You keep on going through life like that. What are you going to achieve, right? But the moment you begin to own the emotion, kind of go in the back of your head, it's like, oh, I'm having an emotion, I'm having an emotion. Then you can do something about it. Because if the emotion it's out there you don't have, you think you have control, but you don't. You might have some influence, but control you have. But over here, you have a lot of control. You are in charge of your body. So this is a wonderful thing because your emotions are in your body, and it's a wonderful thing to be able to play with your emotion. And oftentimes you may just say, "Oh, thank you very much," like, and oftentimes you have thoughts that are triggering your emotions, or you have an emotion that triggering thoughts, and you go into a circle and a catch 22, and you don't even know what started what, and that's not important anymore. But even when you have unpleasant thoughts, what I keep telling people is say, "Well, thank you very much." Yeah, just your emotion. Thank you very much. Well, you're not going to, somebody is being very disrespectful to you and you begin to have all kinds of emotions. That's different. You're not going to give them thanks because they disrespected you and then treated you in an uncivilized manner. They treated you at a lower emotional intelligence scale. You're not going to tell them to thank you. I'm not gonna. But I'm going to think to myself, "Oh, thank you. Oh, I just noticed something. I just noticed something. I just noticed something." And then you take your attention and you divert, right? Divert. And everything becomes a little bit easier, And you can do this. Everybody can do this. Randy?
Yeah, I would just add, you said earlier we can own, people think people want to know, can we own our emotions? Well, we do own them. And I mean, if we don't own them, who does? And if we don't own our own thoughts, who does? I mean, unless somebody believes that there's somebody putting thoughts in their head somehow, which there are thoughts, basically. It's the question is, where do they come from and what causes them, and what are our belief? I give an example of a belief that can create lots and lots of unhappiness. And I think you said it earlier, Carmen. I think it's the belief that things should be easy, life should be easy, and I should be happy most of the time. Well, nobody goes around thinking that. I don't, we don't I don't wake up in the morning and think, "Oh, okay, well, life better be easy today." Because we don't consciously think that. But there's a subconscious belief some of us have that life should be the way I think it should be, basically. And when that is easy. So what happens when life isn't easy? And life sometimes is very uneasy, very. We have it so easy over in this country, but rather not, 80% of the world, life is very difficult daily. So what happens when, like, if I have subconsciously a thought that life needs to be easy for me, I deserve and I should have an easy life. What happens when it doesn't get easy? I'm miserable, and I'm more miserable than I would be even if, otherwise. So that kind of thinking makes us feel worse than we already are feeling. So it's double, what's the word? It's getting 2 for 1. It's getting 2 miserable feelings for the price of 1 miserable thought. So one of the ways to own some of that is to do some self-reflection, like Carmen's saying, I think. Do some self-reflection, trying to understand, what is it that I actually believe? What are my core beliefs? And, you can get to that, a person can get to that through meditation, self-hypnosis, reflection, journalism, et cetera, et cetera. They can get to that kind of understanding about themselves, about their kind of thoughts that create those kind of very miserable, and that's just one example. There's a whole list of them. If anybody wants to Google irrational thoughts, there's probably 100 that are very common. That's just one. Another is people should always be nice to me, for instance. Well, I don't think that. I know people aren't always nice, but if I go to the store and they're rude, I'm going to point it out to them. So, it may be that some part of us thinks that we're unaware of. And doing self-reflection, meditation, self-hypnosis is really good. Doing that kind of stuff helps us understand it and own it and go on with life, so that we're not more miserable than we have to be, because life can be very difficult. I mean, like I said, we have it very easy in this country. Most of us, not all of us, but most of us do. For the rest of the world, a lot of the rest of the world, life's a daily struggle. So how do they find meaning? It's a matter of how they think. I mean, do people that have it hard in other countries get up and think life is miserable? I don't know why I'm living. Why does God keep, they think of it in a different way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes, it does. Yes, it does. It does make sense, and I like the way you keep it simple, because simple, I keep saying all the time, simple. It's highly significant, simple, and when we talk of irrational thoughts, some of the irrational thoughts are, for example, I must be competent in everything, or I will never succeed. I don't know about that. I don't think we can be competent in everything. And then what we just talked about, that my emotions are outside of my control. They might be triggered by events, by people or events, but outside of your control or not. You have an enormous degree of control that you can exercise over your emotion. And another irrational thought is that I can never make a mistake or I'll be seen as a failure. And if you never make a mistake, it means you never try something new. So you can't fail at something you haven't tried. So I make mistakes. I always try to learn something, I make a bunch of mistakes and I forget what did I click? What I have to click now? Where did they move? Where is that button? Then you click on the wrong button and it ends up in the wrong place. And it's, oh, and a very good one that causes a lot of trouble is I might please others to feel good about myself. That when I please others, people pleasers, if others are pleased with me, then I'm going to be pleased with myself. Ooh, that's a painful one. And then if someone criticizes you, that means that something is wrong with you. You're wrong with your behavior, your delivery, your ways, maybe they're not appropriate, but criticism, again, we're talking about criticism. So if all you do is take a step back from criticism, you will elevate your emotional intelligence rather easy. And then another irrational thought is that I will never measure up to others, so I should just give up trying. Measure up to whom? At work, your boss, you are hired at your job to do a specific task. It's as simple as that. If you're going for a promotion, then more it's required. That's a choice you make. It's like, well, I don't have a choice. I have to feed my family. Well, yeah, you have a job, so you can feed your family with the job you have. Other people don't have jobs, right? So measuring up to what? I mean, that's a topic of measuring up to others, and people at work and then people at home and the relationship. Oh, we can do podcast on that for the next 20 years, Randy. Just talking about relationships, emotions in relationships, right? But another one is that if I do things for myself, I will be considered selfish. Well, many times if you don't do it yourself, it's not going to get done. So, step away from criticism and do yourself as much as possible, because it might not get done if you don't do it, right? And then if people, they're not afraid to take risks because then I'm not going to risk it because I'm going to fail. So if I risk it, for sure I'm going to. No. The biggest risk you take in life, it's never taking a risk. You cannot fail at something you haven't tried, and you got to try new things. You got to take little risk. I'm talking about huge, big risk, like take all your money and invest in something, and then market is going to crash, and then you don't have money to pay your rent or your mortgage. That's not what I'm talking about. Try with little risk. Try with the risk of not criticizing somebody. Take that risk. Try that first. Give it a try and allow yourself to have that experience a few times, because once you experience it a few times, then you realize that it's lesser work for you. You take a step back from the criticism for the emotion that you have. You own your emotion, and you go through all of these processes like, oh, I have an emotion, let me reflect on it. What is this telling me? Sometimes maybe something it's really not right in your body and you ought to go see a doctor. And sometimes you do. But the more you allow yourself to experience yourself in non-judgment, and take it in small steps, because there's lots of people that can do big steps, but go with small steps, because every single step counts. Just like every minute in a day counts, every minute in your life counts. So every small step you take, and if you're taking 100 steps, well, there's 100 more to take. And 100 more and 100 more and 100 more. So it doesn't matter that you do more than the others, because it's always going to be the case. And I just generalized. I just said always. Well, it's most likely some people, when in a relationship, some people seem to work harder than other. But again, that's a perception, and we're not doing relationships because that's a different topic of discussion. Although what we're doing tonight is going to help you with your relationships. Elevating your emotional intelligence is going to help you have smoother relationships at work, at home, with your kitty cat, puppy dog, snakes outside, with a light bulb that goes off, and all that. Randy. All yours, Randy.
Oh, I was going to say that one of the things, if, for instance, if somebody is struggling with this and they say that I can't do that, I can't change, I can't be any different, I'm not going to, there's no way. If they came to somebody, for instance, if they came to you, Carmen, one of the things that as a hypnotist that you could do in a session or two is to help them see in their mind and help it filter down to their subconscious what they would be like as a different person, what they would be like if they did accept criticism. I can't go a day. If somebody does this, I'm going to criticize them. There's no way I could be different. Well, as a doing hypnotism, what you could do, Carmen, is you could help them see and experience and accept what life would be like if they did change. And if you could do that, if they did that, and you help them experience that, then they can change. And it's not, it's not like they have to have have brain surgery. You can have a couple of 2 or 3 sessions of hypnosis and be a different person, do things differently, right? Agree?
Yes, right, very right. if I can say it very, very right. You are correct. A lot of what experiences are that which creates your reality, and it creates your construct, it creates your beliefs and values and meta programs and generalization and sorting and deleting and all those mechanisms. So hypnosis provides you with a very deep experience for yourself, experiencing something else, away from outside, direct outside influences, and then exploring your values and beliefs in a healthy manner. Well, if you're doing hypnosis with an ethical hypnotist, with a certified hypnotist, certified of license. Hypnotherapy, it's not required to be licensed, like psychotherapy is required to be licensed, but hypnosis, it's not required. License is not required for hypnosis. Certification, yes, but by license not. And guided meditation is different than a certified hypnotist. And hypnosis, like we talked about, Randy, it's so many different kinds of hypnosis. And me and Randy are well trained in the Ericksonian type of a hypnosis. So what happens if like Randy suggested, you have a problem with having a higher emotional arousal. That's what's called a higher emotional arousal, and you get triggered by other people. And in hypnosis, we can have you have an experience in which provides you with a lot of clarity over the level of your emotional arousal, and that clarity allows you to make appropriate choices and make small adjustments because you've gained that clarity. See? So just like our mentor, Jeff Sykes says, in hypnosis, we're not putting people to sleep. We are awakening them to their potential, to their best potential. Randy?
Yeah, I think that's very true. I was just listening to a speaker the other day about talking just about hypnosis, and he was emphasizing that you're not going to fix them; they're going to fix themselves. They're going to go and do this themselves. And he's a real big proponent of hypnosis. He does a lot of trauma hypnosis, and it was very, very, very true. It's the days of, well, some people respond to real directive hypnosis, but a lot of people, especially in this country, apparently, they respond to a different type, kind of that, me and you, Carmen, were trained under, just a different style. But anyway, whatever style, I think the idea of going to see if going to and somebody doesn't have to go to a hypnotist, they can do self-hypnosis. There's thousands of self-hypnosis things on the internet. The only problem with those, and it's very true, and I've used them myself, is that they're not individualized. They're very general, and if a person comes to go see you, Carmen, and sees you once or twice, you're going to know them. You're trained to know what motivates them, what they're thinking, how they're motivated, how they're seeing, feeling, thinking, experiencing the world. So if you're going to be able to devise a hypnotism, a self-hypnosis tape even, that is very geared toward them. Just getting one off the internet somewhere is too general. Well, it isn't too general, but it's usually not as effective, typically, I find. So going to see somebody and getting the thing made, and just like you were saying, Carmen, that um, it really is very important to see somebody who's well trained and certified at hypnosis, and well trained and very open about it, very clear. If they, if you're seeing somebody wants to see somebody and they, no matter what the problem is, they're evasive about their training, or they say it's not that big a deal, et cetera, et cetera. That's somebody to avoid like the plague. A good hypnotist is going to be very proud of their certification, very glad that they're certified, and be glad to share it with you and share their training. And like Carmen's had all this NLP training, certified NLP training, very proud, very glad to share it with them. You can go and research it on the internet, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, yeah, there's lots of ways to get help.
Yeah, you bring out a very good point. In there's all kinds of different types of hypnosis, but when it comes to Ericksonian hypnosis, the very first principle of Ericksonian hypnosis is tailoring, is the customization aspect. We don't just take a script and go by the script and then you do your best with that. You hope it works. In Ericksonian hypnosis, we sit with you and we get to know you a little bit, try to understand the root of the problems, the processes, the mechanism, and all that. Well, most of us, I do, at least I do, and Randy does. So tailoring is the most important aspect, and utilizing your resources, the current resources, utilize your current resources and tailoring that to arrive to a therapeutic goal. We have this, we call it a strategic goal, strategy. Being strategic with Ericksonian hypnosis is a strategy like tailoring, utilization, strategic goal, destabilization, experiential, and naturalistic is our Ericksonian core principles. So there's Ericksonian hypnosis is a naturalistic. We're not feeding you, bombarding you with a bunch of scripts and like what they do on TV. That's not entertainment. What they do on TV, it's for entertainment. So no, we're not going to have you cluck like a chicken. No, we're going to remove a lot of stress and elevate, bring clarity over to the resources you have that you can apply to make your life easier. So when you do that, then you don't have to come see me. Then you have more money in the pocket. Less money for me, more money for you. Right? So more money for you, it means you can spend them on other things. So criticism, let's just take a step. This is the first thing you want to do, because if you think out of this triangle of victim, rescuer, prosecutor, if you think not criticizing is the hardest, that's actually the easiest. That's the easiest to do, to be non-judgmental. Because the other two, they have more of a gravitational pull. There's more magnet, there's more glue in being a victim and being a rescuer than being a criticizer or prosecutor. So that's the easiest to do. The other two are much harder. So trust me when I say, I've been teaching destabilize this triangle for over 10 years. There's clear techniques on how to do it. It takes a little bit of time, but once you destabilize this thought pattern, life begins to unfold for you, and you're happier, you and people around you, and you contribute to the collective unconscious. So, Randy, do you want to add anything tonight, or we should wrap it up? It's about an hour.
Yeah, just one last thing is to. The most important thing is to feel comfortable with somebody that you see, hypnotist or not, whoever it is, to feel comfortable. And I'll share an example, and then I'll be through. I was hypnotized many years ago by kind of the style that you're talking about, Herman, and I remember she put me under a trance, and one of the things that in hypnotism people do is a hand levitation, and if it's done well, and I'm receptive to it, or the person's receptive to it, they can say, okay, now try and lower your hand. And I can remember looking at my hand and saying, it won't go down. And I was like, what did you just do? And she was like, isn't that interesting? So it was a very pleasant experience. I really liked it. It was very nice and pleasant. I went a couple of times. Recently I went, and that was nice. And I'll share with you an example of what happened. It was, give you an example of you got to find the right fit. I went to another, I was working with another guy who was a stage hypnotist, and their style is to say, okay, look, push on my hand, harder, sleep. And I didn't know that about him, but he said, he was teaching me some tango moves. He says, maybe if I hypnotize you, it'll help you. And I said, oh yeah, I love hypnotism. And he says, okay, well, I want you to just focus on your feet, sleep. And I was like, what the heck? And I was like, that's hypnotism? So you got to feel comfortable with somebody no matter what. That's all I want to say.
Yes, I've seen a few demonstrations of that, and I happen to laugh at it because it's more complex. And if that works for people, and if it works for you, good for them. I'm not going to take this apart. That's something I don't do. I work with permissiveness and with your accord, and nothing happens without your accord. And the more you're relaxed, the more you are aware of what you want to do. So it's yeah. All right, so we gotta wrap it up for tonight. So the first thing you want to do is stay away from criticism, because it's easier to stay away from criticizing others. By beginning to step away from criticizing others, you will create a lot of ease for yourself. You will elevate your emotional intelligence, because the other two aspects are harder to do. And you will know that when you get there. When you begin to do that, you will know that the other two are much harder to do. So a little less criticism and a bit more emotional intelligence, more awareness, and owning your feelings. When you own them, then you have control over, and then you can do something about it. If they're yours, you can do something about it because they're yours. All right, so thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. All right, good night.
Okay. Bye. Good night.